Accordions are a new component in Bootstrap 5, and they're essentially a way to collapse or uncollapse boxes of content that kind of belong together. So when they're collapsed, the content doesn't take up as much room on the page, or it takes up no room, should I say. And you can see that example right here. If I collapse it, then we don't see the content, and when one opens, it closes the others as well. You can also make it so that auto closing doesn't happen when we click on a different title. So let's try this out in our code. Alright then, so we're going to place our accordion right here, topics at a glance, underneath the pricing section. And basically it's a way for us to show a bit of a book breakdown, the different chapters and what's in each chapter. Now we're going to use the grid system again here, because on the left we're going to have another image of the book, which is the Kindle image, and on the right we're going to have the accordion. So let me first of all create the section tag, and this is going to have an ID of topics, which, remember, is what this link at the top, if we go up to the nav bar right here about the book, that links to this. Go back down to this topic section. All right then. Now inside here, the first thing I'll do is create a container. So div.container, and it's going to be MD. So it's going to be 100% width until medium screens, and at that point it's going to go to that fixed column in the middle and change every breakpoint. Alright, so the next thing I want to do is a bit of a title and intro text for this section. I'm going to paste that in. We have a div with a class of text center, then an h2, then a paragraph tag, lead, text muted, and a bit of text. So if we take... Now after this we need our grid. So we start with a row. Div.row like so, and this is going to have some margin in the y direction, so my-5. Also for this row I want to make the gap of the grid pretty big, so I'm going to say g-5. Remember, we saw that class in the last lesson. I'm also going to say justify-content-around, and that means basically spread around any free space. If we only use maybe 9 or 8 columns, take the rest of the columns and kind of spread it around the elements so all the gaps are equal. So that's that one. And also align items -center, so they're centrally aligned, all the items in the grid vertically. Okay, so tab, and now we have the row. So the thing on the left is going to be the image. Let's make a div for that, and we'll say col-6. So this is going to be by default for very small screens, and then col-lg, when it reaches large screens, it's going to be 4. So -4. Inside here, I'm going to do an image, and the source is going to go into assets, and it's this one right here, Kindle. So let's click on that, and then also we'll give this a class. And this is going to be equal to image-fluid, like so. And the alt is just going to be ebook. Alright, so that's our image on the left. Let's take a look at that. Okay, it's not on the left at the minute, but that's just because we only have this one thing in the grid, and we said justify content around. If I take that off, it's going to be on the left, right? Let's take a look. Yep, on the left. Okay, so the next thing we need is the accordion itself. So let's do a comment and say accordion, and then underneath the accordion, first of all, a div with a class of accordion. So that's the class that Bootstrap uses for an accordion. And also I'm going to give this an ID, and this ID is going to be equal to chapters. So we're going to describe the different chapters in the book here. Alright, so we have several items in an accordion, right? And each item is going to have like a header that we can click on, and also some content which collapses. So first of all, let's do a div with a class of accordion-item. So this accordion item surrounds the header, the title that we click, and also the content that collapses. So let's do the header first of all, h2, and we give this a class of accordion-header. And also, I'm going to give this an ID, just to identify this header, and that is going to be heading 1. So inside the h2, I'm now going to do a button, and this is the button we're going to click on to open and close that particular section, this accordion item. Now what I'm going to do is paste in a few different attributes in here, so you don't have to watch me type them out from scratch. and then I'm going to explain each one. So let me paste them in right here. So we have a class, first of all, which is accordion button. That styles it. Then the type is button. Then we have this data attribute, data BS, toggle, and we set that equal to collapse. So that describes the behavior of what this button is basically going to do. And Bootstrap knows that now. Then we have the target data attribute, which is going to be ID chapter 1. So that is going to be the ID of the section of content that is going to toggle. Then we have aria expanded is equal to true, and that's because by default this first section is going to be open, and we'll sort that out in a second. And then finally, aria controls equals chapter 1. That's what this button controls, chapter 1, and that is the same as the ID right here. So we have that button, but we also need some text inside it. So I'm going to say chapter 1 hyphen your first web page. So that's the, oops, let's get this correct for a start. Web page, that's the title of the chapter. And that is also the accordion header done. Now, if we save this and take a look at it so far, it's not going to look like much, and it doesn't do anything when we click on it, but we can see it is styled as an accordion header, and we can see this arrow right here to let us know that this is toggleable. All right, so let's do the content for this. So we have the header. Underneath the H2, we now want to do a div for the content. So I'm going to say div, and I'm going to give this an ID of chapter-1. And remember, we said that the target of this button was the div with chapter 1 as the ID. So it knows to open this one and close this. All right, so we also need to apply some classes to that and other attributes as well, which again, I'm just going to copy from my repo and paste them in so you don't have to watch me type them out from scratch. We have a class of accordion collapse. That describes what this div does. It collapses and opens, and also collapse as well. And then this class right here, show, it means by default when we load the page, this is going to show, it's going to be open. If we didn't have this, it would be closed. Also, we see aria labeled by heading 1. And remember, this is heading 1. So we're associating this content with this heading. So we're just telling screen readers this. And then the parent is a data attribute to say, what is the parent of this? What accordion does this belong to? And we're saying it's this one right here with an ID of chapters. So it knows that this is in the same accordion as this, basically. So that's all there is to it. And inside this now, we can output the accordion body, the actual content. So we'll do a div with a class of accordion-body. And again, I've not memorized all this by any means. You just need to check out the documentation if you're unsure what classes to use. I would never recommend anyone memorize all these classes. That's just a totally pointless exercise and a complete waste of space in your mind. Just check out the docs. So accordion body, inside here we'll do some lorem, so let's do that. And another p tag as well, lorem, like so. So hopefully if I save this now and scroll down, we can see that this is open. If I click on this, it closes it. Open, closed, etc. So that's pretty good. If I take away the show class right here and save it, then scroll down, we can see by default it doesn't show to begin with. When I add it, it does show to begin with. Okay, so now that's the first chapter. What I'm going to do is basically copy this and paste it down below to create other chapters. So in fact, what I'll do is copy it from my repo because it makes no sense for me to write all of these out from scratch. So let me just grab all these and paste them in below this div right here, this item. So let me paste it here. And one of the only bad things about using Bootstrap is that you sometimes see these divs are quite nested and it becomes hard to see where one ends and one starts. So I sometimes leave comments at the end of divs, but alas, I didn't this time. So we have 5 accordion items right here. So after the first one, you can see we've got another accordion item and it has exactly the same things inside it. The accordion header, the ID, the button, and the type, and the toggle, the target, which is chapter 2, and these aria labels as well, some text, and then we have the actual div for the content, which is accordion collapse. We don't say show by default because we only want to show the first one by default. The ID is chapter 2, the parent is chapters, which is the whole accordion, and then the body. And it's the same for every one. Instead of heading 2, it's heading 3, etc. Chapter 3, heading 4, chapter 4. So it's basically just the same thing over and over again. All I've done is change the ID of these things right here. So it's 4 instead of 3, 4 instead of 3, 4, etc. So if I save this, hopefully we'll see all of those like this. And they all work. And when we click on a different one, it closes the other. All right, so that's okay right here, but it's not inside the grid, is it? So let's have a look at this. We have this inside the row. We just need to place this accordion in some kind of column. So let's do that. I'm going to, above the accordion, do another div, and this is going to have a class of col-lg-6. And what that means is for very, very small screens, extra small, it's going to be full width because we don't specify anything for below large screens. So it's just automatically going to be full width. Then when we get to a large screen, it's going to be 6 columns in width, as is this. So 6 plus 6. Oh, sorry, it's going to be 4 on a large screen. So we have 10. So there will be a little space around it. Let's take this closing div and go to the end of the accordion, which is somewhere down here. Phew, I need to find this now. I'm pretty sure it's this one. So let me place the closing div right here and see if this works. I'm going to save it. And yep, that looks about right. So the small screens, it's like this. And then as we get bigger, they go next to each other. Awesome. So there we go, my friends. That is our accordion.